Well, not starting yet. We get to see first. Don't judge me. I know. It's like. You want to start?
So, Mr. White, Miss Apple, we called you guys in today because we've had obviously a misunderstanding occurring between you guys that's kind of creating some problems, and it's not healthy for your guys' relationship as neighbors, and it's not helping you guys as individuals. And you guys have both made it clear that it's not helping your families. So we're here today to try and go ahead and quell some of those problems, make sure that the tension between you guys is resolved to the best of our ability. Do keep in mind that everything that we talked about today, everything you guys say, everything we say, will be held in confidentiality. So do not feel like you need to hold something back, but at the same time, do not begin to become offensive to Ms. White or Mr. Apple. We're here to come to a resolution. That's what this is for. So I hope that we can go through that and make sure to do it in an effective way.
Right. And just to let you know, so kind of about a little bit about the process is first we're going to start off by having each of you tell your own side of the story. And while you're telling your own side of the story, please don't interrupt each other. Just give first and here, and then later on you can give your own perspective. And then after both of you tell the side of your story, then we're going to have a moment where you can go ahead and start talking to each other, and then we'll see what we can do from there. All right. So with that said, Mr. White, would you like to start first?
Well, I feel like there isn't much of a story to tell besides the fact that my hillbilly neighbors here decided to build a racetrack behind their house, and it's quite distracting, and I've gone through multiple attempts to try and get them to quiet down or at least do it at reasonable hours, and they've denied every time, and so now I'm just kind of like not really knowing what to do. I got the city involved, and they haven't been very helpful at all, and me and my wife just really want to relax. We've been working our whole lives, and we really just like to sit back and get some sleep, but we can't seem to do that with the apples over there making all that noise.
And when you're talking about the noise, would you like to elaborate a little bit more?
Well, they decided to build a dirt racing track that they race their motorcycles and cars around at all hours of the day, making a bunch of noise, inviting friends over and leaving trash all over the place, getting dirt all over my stuff, and just really just making a mess.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not that I think of.
All right. Would you like to go ahead and give your perspective, Ms. Apple?
Yeah, as far as I know that he has been complaining a lot about what goes on my property. We are not, making noises at odd hours. My kids just want to have fun. They are really into, riding their bikes, BMXing, and they're getting really good. And it's because me and my husband made that possible, and they have a lot of fun with it. And it's really weird that my neighbor has been taking photos of my kids while we're outside and basically standing on our property line watching. Even my 3-year-old daughter, he took pictures of her when she was outside. It was very weird, and it's making me feel really uncomfortable, me and my family uncomfortable. We're just there to have fun, and it's just, he's making it very uncomfortable for us. We've been living there longer, way longer than he has. We've been there for about several years now, and he's a new neighbor, and I I mean, this is where we live. Where we live is by, you know, in the outskirts, you know, people, you know, all of our neighbors do what we want to do, and he's the only one who complains about, you know, what I do at my home and my property line. It's ridiculous that he's been complaining. We haven't done anything wrong.
Besides the fact that you were on your roof yelling at me and snooping around and stalking me and making provocative statements, or standing by my mailbox so I can't get my mail. What about those incidents?
Well, I mean, I was pretty furious that he was taking pictures of me and my kids, but I just wanted to address what I felt about it to him. And, you know, I don't want to take this to an extreme, but I do want a restraining order against him. So
You only want a restraining order because I already tried to file a restraining order against you, and then the city didn't go through with it, so then you decided to make more noise, and then I decided to try and document that by taking pictures, and now you're trying to file a restraining order against me for documenting the injustice you already committed.
Okay, well, before we go on into that, you know, let's just go ahead and have you finish off your side of the story. So far, you know, you guys have both been keeping quite respectful of each other, and you know, I do appreciate that. There might be a little things that you'll be saying towards it. Maybe you can calm down on, such as calling each other names, such as being any of the such. But you know, would you just go ahead and like to continue on, please?
yeah, I mean, that's about it. I feel that we have been harassed by him, and we want it to stop. It's not good for my kids to have someone bother them when they're doing things that they love.
How old are your children, if you don't mind me asking?
3, 8, 11, beautiful kids.
I understand, you know, you want to have a good environment for your children and you want them to have fun and follow, you know, their dreams over. And right now, let's just focus on, I want to focus on the racetrack itself, since it seems to be the primary issue between you guys. You said that you guys aren't making noise at odd hours, correct?
Yes.
And you said that the noise keeps you from sleeping?
Indeed.
Okay, so
He sleeps all the time. He's
That's what
very
happens when you work 40 years building a company.
Well, I took a lot of time to build that racetrack. Me and my husband took a while to do. It's a lot of work.
It's a
Not my
racetrack
fault
though.
that
That's
you're
nothing.
sleeping.
That's nothing compared to
24/7.
building
you
your
guys, let's go ahead
life's
and
work
try
for
to.
40 years. I
Okay.
could build a racetrack.
I understand that. That's why I understand that you have had a very laborious life. I get that, but it seems like in terms of Miss Apple's perspective here, she isn't racing at odd hours of the night. She isn't allowing her kids to race at all hours of the night. She says, what time would you say you guys are ready?
I would say no later than 9 o'clock. They have to go to school in the morning. They're only 8 and 11. I mean, how long could they be riding? They're just kids. They need to go to school in the morning.
But 7 days a week, pretty much at least like 8 hours a day maybe.
I mean, they get tired and they take breaks, so I think
Yeah,
he's
but-
very exaggerating. He's exaggerating
But
about it.
every day, like you're hearing that round and round the track every day. They're pretty much in my backyard too. Our house is not that far.
It doesn't bother anybody except for him.
So let me put this in a perspective you might understand as a established businessman. You had to pursue what you wanted to do every day, correct? These children are doing the same. In Miss Al's perspective.
But I wasn't bothering other people in doing that. Me going to work every day and pursuing my job and building my company wasn't interrupting anybody else's lifestyle or sleep pattern. Well, her little Hellraisers on the other hand are running around, bringing all their friends over and leaving soda cans in my yard and racing their dirt bikes at all hours of the day. I mean, I tried to let them know, but it didn't work.
Okay, so in terms of the racing hours, if 9 o'clock is too late for you, what would you consider to be
Well, I go to sleep at like 7. I'm old,
Well,
I'm not staying up all night. I just need to
So
get my sleep.
understanding that you do sleep early, and it's understandable. How many hours do you think would be agreeable to have our children do what they love to do?
Maybe like 3 or 4.
4 hours
A
day?
week?
Or a week, or?
Oh, I mean, I feel like they shouldn't be doing it 7 days a week to begin with, but like 3 or 4 hours a day, like 4 or 5 days a week.
now, Ms. Hopple, is that something you might be willing to reason with Mr. White?
I mean, after he has been threatening my kids and taking weird photos, it's very hard to now have this restriction for us in our home because of the way he feels. Well, how about us? We have been like yelled at by him. I'm kind of scared that he's going to get more violent, and it's just, I just don't think it's really fair because I mean, I know that my kids are, writing at normal hours of the day, and I want him to stop, threatening my kids.
Right, and that's what we ultimately want out of this mediation as well, because all of this is happening because you guys aren't communicating properly about the situation. So while I understand that you want your children to be happy and that you preferably don't want to deal with these sorts of outbursts between the two of you guys, the only way that's going to happen is if we resolve things here today. And so right now we're just talking about whether or not, given best case scenario of this mediation, if you would be willing to potentially reduce the amount of time that your children stay out on the track.
I will be willing to have maybe less friends around making more noise because they do bring over their friends, and I can do that. But I mean, I feel as if he's exaggerating about the hours that my kids have been writing because they don't write all night long. Just because he goes to sleep at 7 p.m., the whole neighborhood doesn't fall asleep at 7 p.m.
How many hours do you believe that your children are working
Maybe 6, 5. I mean, they take breaks between them.
6 of them? Right. And so, what I do want to come back to is just the idea of a restraining order. So you said that you tried to go through with the restraining order and you weren't able to go through with it, and
I wasn't.
you weren't able to go through with it. And so because you tried and failed, you wanted to get evidence so you can put a restraining order. And you are currently trying to put a restraining order. Is that right?
Yes.
So
I mean, I'm not standing over his house watching him. He's taking photos of my kids. I wanted to tell him.
But Mr. White has contributed or has attempted to clarify on that, and did say that he was attempting to take pictures of the track to verify that there was a substantial amount of noise. It doesn't seem,
No, I mean, the city they have already took pictures of
No,
the track.
no,
The
no.
city has.
I called the city and they told me to get evidence to file the case, and so that's what I was doing.
I watched them take photos of the track and they left. They didn't say anything about removing the track. Nothing.
so is it possible that these were, this was the city gathering, whatever they needed for themselves and then also asking Mr. White for his own contributions to the case?
I don't know. Why
But
would
isn't
they
it-
need his contribution if they came to my house already?
Because of course you're gonna start acting all nice when the city shows up. Because as soon as the city left, you guys started making more noise and inviting more people over, and making even more obnoxious trash show up. I'm having to get my cars cleaned and detailed like once a week now, because there's dirt all over that in my house. I'm having to pressure wash that. And I'm 63 years old. Like, I just want to relax. I don't have to put up with this.
I'm just a little curious. You said dirt was on your car. Isn't this near your backyard?
Oh, we have multiple cars, but
No, it's on your backyard.
If you
yeah.
didn't have so many cars, this wouldn't be a problem. His cars are just
I mean, that's what
running
happens
around.
when you make money.
We can build a garage if you have so much money.
Okay, so this,
Well-
you guys, let's go ahead and bring this away from money. This is, the conflict we're talking about here has nothing to do with how many cars you have, or the fact that he should build a garage. We're here talking about the track.
So, I did notice that since both of you do want a restraining order, and it does seem like, you just want to be in as least contact with each other as possible, and a restraining order would be a great idea for that, in the sense that you both do want it. So, one question I have here is, what is stopping you from getting a restraining order now? Is there anything that's impeding that?
There's nothing stopping me from getting a restraining order against him because he has been on our property line taking photos and not done anything to him for him to be so rude.
Okay, well, in that sense, well, if you are able to get a restraining order, I just wanted to say, maybe this would be able to lead into what we've been talking about beforehand, which was, how many hours your kids are running per day. You were saying that your kids are probably running about 6 to 7 hours, right? And you said, sorry, 5 to 6, I'm sorry. So 5 to 6, and then you said it would be more reasonable for them to do 3 to 4. Would you be able to negotiate, just something dead smack in the middle of that, and say it was about 4 hours or 4.5 hours of riding per day, and then to back that up, you would have a restraining order, so that you wouldn't be in negative contact with each other, such as yelling or anything of the such.
I mean, you've already said that inviting less people over is something that you are willing to do, and Mr. White, you said that was the primary source of noise and trash that was
That
upsetting
and
you,
dirt.
right?
I mean, if they're still riding and there's still dirt on my car, then that's
Right,
still work that I'd have to do that
Right,
I shouldn't have to put up with.
but understand that you did move into a house that is right next to that track.
Well, they put up the track after I moved in. It wasn't theirs.
Is this true?
Yes, that's true.
So then, I think, when you saw the track being built, maybe that was the dirt was something that could have been considered on either one of your, for either one of you guys or both of you guys, and that could have been a conversation. But I think the window of opportunity for, resolving the dirt is pretty much past. There's nothing you can
So
really
you're
do.
telling me I have to keep cleaning my cars every day because they're just gonna keep
I'm
putting
telling
dirt
you,
on them?
I'm telling you that there's no way that at this point she's
I mean,
going
this
to
is where you
remove.
chose to live, people.
I didn't choose to live next to a dirt track.
Right.
Like, this is a.
Or you
like,
can have your
literally-
kids come over and wash off my cars once they're finished riding their little dirt bikes.
I mean, everyone's cars get dirty now and then. Why
All
do
of
you need
your
to wash
cars
your
do.
cars every day anyway?
Because I like to look presentable. I
Home?
don't like to drive around looking like hillbillies
very
at
heavy.
race
Okay.
dirt
Let's
tracks.
try to reduce the derogatory terms here. I'm trying to keep things civil.
Well, and to think about this in a different way, it might not sound too bad to say that if your children are spreading dirt in areas where it's not your own property, it might be reasonable for them to clean up after themselves.
Clean up little, just like dust, like
It's
winds.
dirt. It's plenty of dirt that gets raised.
From
By
what
the
from what I'm
wind.
understanding, it sounds like it's a lot of dirt. Would you
I'm
like
having
to
to
both
pressure
elaborate?
wash the dirt off of my house and my cars. That's how much of dirt's in there.
But it's not enough dirt to like pile up and create mounds on your
It's like mud. So I mean, like if I don't clean it, then they're just gonna be covered in like mud specks. Like it's just gonna build up if I don't.
Okay, and I mean, is there no way to, make a barrier or something happen between your properties to help reduce the amount of mud that gets put onto Mr. White's building?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, nobody else complains. He has a lot of room by his home where he can build a fence, more garages or whatever he wants. He's the only neighbor that does complain. All of the other neighbors actually appreciate that the kids have somewhere to hang out.
Because all the other neighbors are pretty much hillbillies too.
And,
I didn't
Okay,
well,
realize
let's go
that.
Let's go ahead and not be calling out names for people. Let's just bring it back saying you can just call them your neighbors and just leave it at that. So all right. So if you think that a fence would be a good idea, would that be something both of you could agree on making?
or at least both contributing to. I mean, it is a mess. Miss Apple that the dirt track does create and is affecting his home, but it is also something you want and could have easily done earlier by yourself. So now we're asking you guys to kind of come together on this.
I mean, I guess a fence would help with the dirt, but it's still not resolving the noise problem.
Right. No. Right now we're just focusing on the dirt. We're gonna get one thing taken care of it at a time.
So, what do you both think about that?
What was the question?
The question was, would you be willing to both pitch in to create a fence between you both, between the both of you, so you can solve the dirt issue?
Yes. I have money, but I honestly.
Right, and no one's asking for you to pay for this by yourself. That's why we're asking for both of your participation in this.
I just feel like the fence is kind of an eyesore for my property, in a sense. Like, it's not as open. I didn't move to this house to be confined to my space, but I didn't know that they'd be building a dirt track at the same time.
Right.
Right. And this is something that no one can really see when they're moving into a new place, and so it's understandable that you didn't see it coming. However, this might be something that you would just have to adjust to, because if both of you can agree that having a dirt track would be the best thing, maybe the next best thing would be setting up a way that both of you can have your own space and still be happy in a way. I don't exactly know what your backyards look like, so I don't know if it's.
I mean, we have 1.5 acres of land around our home. So it's very separated from our neighbor.
And how much of that 1.5 acres is open land right now?
I'm not sure exactly.
So you have 1.5 acres of land.
And you couldn't
And-
build a dirt track anywhere else
My,
not that close to my
before
house.
you go on ahead, and I would just say, not saying that you must place your dirt track in a different area to not disturb anyone else. My question to you would be, if you do have that much land in your backyard and you are able to make a dirt track, could there be a chance that you could cut off a portion of that? That way you don't get any residue on his area. It's 1.5 acres. Doesn't sound like a lot of land. For
I just
background.
feel as if he has a problem with it, so he
Right.
should be able to build, a fence there. I mean, I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay, but I understand that, you don't feel like you should have to move your track, I get that. But at the same time, can you understand maybe where he's coming from and not wanting to have to build a 10 plus foot fence to
I
just,
can, I could even, I totally understand. Like, that's fine. I mean, would you want to build a fence and I can hold off the restraining order, or, what else?
I think at this point, Mr. White's primary concern with this is that his house and his cars are still not being protected from the mud. And there is, we're still also yet to talk about the noise aspect of this. Or at least find a resolution, because we did touch that earlier. But right now, I think Mr. White is looking for a way to keep his house and his items clean without having to build, as he called it, an eyesore, to solve that problem. And we're offering a potential, an option really, just to restructure the track in a way that it's not gonna go ahead and kick up mud onto his house and his cars when your kids are racing.
And the way that would, well, one, it would obviously benefit him by not having any residue on his property. But, I would like to just bring up the idea that, although it might be a little bit of work for both of you, what it's going to lead to in the very end is that you're going to both be able to get past this and just not have to be in each other's hair a lot of times. So yes, it's going to be a little bit more work, but in the end it might be a little bit more worth it.
This is, right now it's a mutual problem and we're trying to come to a mutual solution. So, keep in mind.
I can maybe move the track into another direction. And if he wants to build a fence, he can on his own time. If he keeps complaining about it, I will put a restraining order if he does end up on my property line again.
So here's a question that would probably be more geared towards you, because you would probably know, since you're more known with the tracks and whatnot. Just how far would you have to place it away from his property so that mud, dirt wouldn't be affecting his location? And do you think that distance would be reasonable for you to do?
It's right now it's right goes around my house so I can watch my kids ride their bikes. So I can figure something out where I could move the track onto the other side of the house.
Right, and that, it is it is clear that that would be a lot of work on your end to move an entire track, at least, even if it's just a few feet. So with that said, I hope you're hearing that she's going to move it just a little bit away from your property. Hopefully that will take a lot of residue off of your car and your yard and whatnot too. So I don't really know if that would make it to a point where a fence wouldn't be necessary. But do you have any comments on that? Would you be
I'd be fine with that.
and would you be willing to perhaps help in that process if you would like some kind of assistance in that? That way it's not all on you.
That's fine with me, as long as the mess is staying on their property.
That should be fine.
And then let's go ahead and talk about the noise now. To resolve that, we've already established that you say they ride for 5 to 6 hours a day, and you would like them to ride for about 4.5. But I'd say that talking about hours of riding isn't so much the issue as so much what time to stop riding. Because there are going to be days when your kids aren't in school and they're going to have more free time, so they're probably going to want to ride more. But at the latest, what do you think is a reasonable time?
And to add on to that, I understand that kids do have to go to school, and you do have
They
to
have
go.
bedtimes.
Yes, so that kids do have to go to school, and then I believe that, being a parent, you probably are either working and parenting or doing one or the other at certain points, right? So there might be times where, your kids can't get up earlier to start early and then finish early. And so my question would be, is there a way that you can start earlier and that way you can finish earlier? And then from that point on, we can move on from there. Do you think there is?
I mean, maybe 8 p.m., but after I move this track around, I believe that it won't be that much noise. I mean, they're just 2 kids on a bike. I don't understand, what noise do you hear?
Okay. So then, I do understand your perspective, and I do understand that she is going to be moving the track away, so we'll be lessening the noise naturally. But should it be a problem in the future, and it be something that does happen and does come up again, maybe having already determined a time before you guys walk out of here will help you guys communicate. Should you guys need to, talk about this later, and that way you don't have to argue about this in the future.
I mean, I really don't want them riding their bikes when it's really late and it's dark, so maybe 8 p.m., 7 p.m.
The latest is 8 p.m. okay?
Yeah.
So it looks like, just to recap on some of the resolutions that we have come to agree on, would be, so you're going to go ahead and move the track a little bit away in a different direction from your location. That would remove the dust, hopefully, and the dirt, right? And then another one would be, the kids will agree to also not ride in the time zone that you're going to be sleeping. So does that sound good for the both of you? Does this sound fair?
Yeah, just as long as he, stops bothering my kids. It would be nice if he said sorry to my kids. My kids were scared.
Is that something you'd be willing to do?
I guess I don't really know if any kids would really scare them off, but
You threaten my kids.
I told them they should be careful when they're riding the stupid bikes, but I mean, I don't consider that much of a threat.
I understand, when you're angry, or whenever somebody's frustrated, they might say something that's out of what they would normally say to people, such as saying, Brian, you're stupid, stuff or something like that. But I would like to say that, you know, if you're talking to a child, for example, just a little word such as stupid would be, you know, I don't know if a kid would take it more in an offensive way or like, oh, he said stupid, I don't know how to feel about this way. So, you know, although you may not have meant to scare them or anything like that, it might have come off in that way, and you know, naturally the kids wouldn't tell you about that or confront you about that, but they would tell their mom. So, what I would say here is, you know, since she is letting you know how they feel, do you think you would be able to apologize to them?
Say sorry.
That would be appreciated.
Is there anything else you're looking for out of this, Miss Apple?
No?
And would that be okay with you?
Yep.
Alright, well, thank you for coming to this mediation. I hope everything is going to go well from this point on, and so now you both have your resolutions and you can work on it from there.
Okay.
Shake hands, and we'll go ahead and write up this contract, and then we'll go ahead and get you guys out of here on your ways.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Wait, I'm confused now. Dude, are we supposed to actually do the thing?
No, you
Shake?
can
Yeah, okay, we were just
Sweet. Didn't go too long.
Yeah, that was
Was that like
Oh,
okay?
well.
Kind of?
Like an hour.
I don't know why. Could you read the question?
Yeah, I'll read them out loud. Alright, so question number 1. How well prepared were the parties in terms of reading and understanding their roles? Please comment on how and whether the parties would have benefited from further study of their character roles, emotions, needs, interests, bargaining positions, facts, relationships, etc.
Alright, so to start it off, for both Brett and I, we wanted to experiment on this. And we said we're just not going to read anything from party 1 and party 2. We're just going to go in kind of blind.
I mean, that's like, I feel like that's how.
That's what you're supposed
Yeah, that's, I mean, we were presented with that
That's for the
small.
record.
No, but I mean, like, we were presented with that small bit of information, and I feel like what you're presented as a mediator is what you're presented, like, and that's all we know after having convened with the parties, really.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I feel like we, in that sort of situation, we knew all we could about the parties, and so kind of we did the best bouncing back and forth that we could.
And, well, you guys, oh man. I felt like, okay, so I felt like you guys knew a good amount for your roles. It just never came out until the very,
Like toward the end, like I feel like
yeah,
it,
towards the end.
like a lot of the information came out like little by little. Like we talk about one thing and then like another thing pops up. Like oh, well, this happened too. Like and then it's
Yeah.
just like oh yeah.
Well, I felt like when I read through it, I was like, okay, is this understandable? Like, I understand why she's upset. And then there's like little things in there that I forget to mention, like how big
Yeah.
her land is.
Yeah, but I feel like when you
What
threw it
she
in was good
exactly
timing.
said. Huh?
I feel like when you threw it in was good timing though. It kind of came like naturally. It wasn't like
That's true.
Yeah, like you're supposed to be surprised anyway. Like you're supposed to be like,
Yeah, we were
What?
very surprised.
Yeah.
1.5
But, you know,
acres.
I'll hear you be like, you know, I built my racetrack on my 1.5 like acre thing, and now, because I mean, that without that was kind of like your bargaining power. Like, had you never revealed that, like I would have just thought you're.
but everyone in the neighborhood has that much land.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's like a freaking, what's like a city out?
Like Los Gatos.
Los Gatos, like their freaking houses are huge and they have like a farm and that's what it
Well, there
is.
might be something we just overlooked because we're
Because we weren't provided with that either, so it was
Yeah.
like.
And since we're in San Jose, we thought it was just probably assumed everyone's backyard is like.
Yeah, I really just thought like I didn't know how big the backyards were, so I was kind of like.
I just figured it was kind of big because they had a racetrack. I didn't think it was 1.5. It didn't say in mine. I just thought
And
it
it's,
was
yeah, it doesn't say like how big the racetrack is.
Yeah.
Does it say yours? So I
Nah.
mean, that's why I didn't know what to say.
I thought it came out naturally, so in that aspect, I think you know, both pretty good.
Because I don't know anything about BMX, like racetrack, so I can't, yeah, I mean, yeah, I wasn't good on that. because, I mean, I'm not familiar with it. I mean, if I had read this like last night, would have I Googled BMX tracks? Probably not. Just to see, I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Next question.
Please comment on one or two points in time wherein the students portrayed the party's interests very well. I thought, when you were talking about, like, when you got into the part about him taking, like, pictures of your kids, that kind of became, like, the biggest, like, focal point of your argument. And then, like, from then on, it was, like, all about the kids, really. And even at the beginning, because you were like, they're students, they love, like, blah, blah, blah. And that kind of, like, sent through the rest of the mediation. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, you acted like a good parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You just wanted,
I
like,
think that's what the freaking role was.
yeah, and
My
you
darling
portrayed
kid.
that. Yeah, portrayed it well, it seems like you played it as like that's what you would have wanted for your kids, and I thought that was well.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like your character just seemed old.
Yeah.
just because like when we talk to you, like you would like give out a little bit of information and then that's it, and I'm just like, come on.
Like I feel like he wasn't like as snide and like as like as snooty as like someone in his position might be.
Yeah.
From my perspective in particular, I believe like a lot of the old people that I know, they do comment on other people in a very similar way that you do.
Yeah, you were like rednecks.
Yeah, things like that. Especially my grandparents, they constantly cussing and all that stuff too. In regards to like, can you just call people? And like, no, you know how dirty they are, stuff like that, And so I don't know. I felt like that was a good portrayal of the older gentleman.
Do we comment on yours?
I guess.
I think you did really well using the techniques.
I tried. I was like.
I know. I could hear the effort.
You guys were like validating and like reflecting. But I didn't. Well, I mean, when it gets to what they didn't do, when it gets to that question, like I noticed that you guys weren't like, so how are you like feeling or like our feelings? If we were like.
That's true. That's true. We.
Sad or mad or whatever.
I mean, I kind of did that, but like not
No.
not actively though. It was more like okay, like I was trying to be like
Alright, you
emotional
feel
parody when I was like I understand like you want the best for your kids like. So that's how I tried to make that like a lot more fluid and not like a lot less like obvious like.
Yeah.
I think that's something I missed. Just thinking so much about moving forward, you kind of forget.
You guys did good at listening.
Yeah. I think so.
Listeners.
Yeah.
I really tried to listen. I was like, damn. I was like, well, I don't know anything. Like,
Yeah. I guess
Yeah,
like-
I think it makes you like more into the
perceptive.
yeah.
what's going on.
It's kind of interesting how when we're talking about some of the details that we don't know, because of that listening, you kind of like you react to it a little bit more, such as just bringing it back to that 1.5 acre. As soon as you say 1.5 acre, I was like, what? I was like, and you can't move? It kind of made me sound like, hey, you're being a jerk, but I'm not gonna say that, but I can hear it.
Yeah.
Question 3. Please comment on one or two points at which the student's portrayal of the party seemed unrealistic and did not contribute to the sense of realism within the role play.
I don't know. I feel like it was kind of hard for me to like get into character, like, and really as like an old retired person, like I didn't really know how they would like. I just tried to like play on the rest thing, but it just didn't really. I don't really know what else he really wanted. It didn't really say much. Like
You want
Just
this
talk-
peace and quiet.
That's really like.
Everyone just shut up.
That's right. That's what we talked about. Was like his sleep problem and like the dirt on his stuff, so I was just
Just
like,
like I honestly feel like had you added in like with the promethazone, I that's probably like probably would have got like the most unrealistic like, but it didn't get to that part because that wasn't like something like that was just like a personal part of information I think that like really didn't like contribute. Like you could have just been like I'm taking medicine to go to sleep now because of the noise, but like
Yeah.
that didn't really like that wasn't part of it.
But I mean, it's, okay, BMX, is that just regular bikes?
No,
I think they were
they're
using
dirt bikes.
They're dirt
Like
bikes.
dirt
Yeah,
bikes?
like-
bikes.
I don't know
And
how loud they
motorcycles,
are,
They're
so.
pretty loud.
They're
They're
like
like meant to
motorcycles.
create dirt.
Yeah.
They're really loud actually.
Well, I mean, and plus, I didn't know, like, how far away the track was from his
yeah,
house,
that's
so I
another
mean,
thing
I
they
just.
didn't really.
In my mind, I pictured it
Oh, I
as
thought it was like right along the fence. Like if they did a wrong turn, they were gonna hit your house.
That's how they make it sound since there's so much dirt getting on everything. I'm like, how close is it? Then
Yeah,
the
like,
dirt
yeah.
getting on my car
I
and
was
my house.
because when I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, because I thought of it in the San Jose backyard sense, right? So I was like, you have a small backyard here, you have a small backyard here. Apparently, there's no fence, so you have like a dirt track right here, and then every time you do a turn, it goes
it's
dirt
just
all
like
over the
dirt
car.
all over
And so
my
I'm just like, how's that even, you know, how could you even do that? And then when you said 1.5 acres, I was like, okay, so there's a lot of land,
Yeah.
and there's just a particular area, maybe you can just avoid that area, that would be like perfect, but every time I thought of it, I always thought it was right next to each other.
Yeah, see, that's, I mean, I would assume like 1.5 acres, like, why would I build it right next to my
You
house?
said
That's
it.
what I
No,
was thinking.
yeah, you said it went all the way around your house. Like, where's your driveway? Like,
I don't know, my driveway.
like that part got me. I was like, there's a trench around your
Well,
house.
for me at least, like,
And then that,
my home in Alabama, my grandpa owns like 600 something acres of land, and his yeah, it's a lot, and his house is like dead smack in the middle, and so you just have to drive on a pathway to get to his house, and all around is all farmland. So I could see how there's like a dirt
Yeah.
track all around it.
that's why I was like, when they're talking about like the dirt getting on my cars, I was like, yeah, like where are my cars? That's what I was like.
Yeah, that's-
I was like, yeah, I just have a lot of cars. Like it's
That's-
just like
that's why I brought up the question.
I feel like it had to have been like an impound lot, like sort of thing. Like that's a lot of cars, especially like if you're it's
Yeah,
like 1.5 acres.
It's just like you can build a garage.
That's why I asked the question. I was like, so you're telling me dirt got on your car, but your backyard's empty. Your car's in your backyard. I was so confused, you know. And then you're like, yeah, I got a lot of cars. I'm like, all right, I don't even. I don't, man. I don't have that problem. So for me, I felt like that wasn't something you can control or
Yeah.
anything, but that's just something that made it feel unrealistic. Because
Yeah.
one, I've never really heard of anyone like having a dirt track right next to someone's house, and I've never heard the idea of like your car in your backyard.
Yeah.
Except for I can see that a little bit because in Alabama, like we bring the trucks around the back, but
But it's
that's
like-
like that's not a yard. You know? That's,
They kind of
It's
just
a
park
whole
it on-
land.
Yeah, they just park it on the. Like,
yeah.
but I don't understand why I couldn't just move the cars. Like,
Yeah.
like if
Like,
I have just
all
as
this-
much land, like why don't I just park them on the other side of my house?
Yeah, I mean, they're kids, so
Why
it's
did we
like,
bring
oh,
that up?
okay.
We could have just said, can you move the car? Can you put it in the front maybe where everyone else does it?
I'll take that for one of the questions. I got that. Please provide a comment to each student / party as to ways to improve their role play for the next role play.
Well, I think as mediator, we didn't do that. That was pretty good.
I
For the
mean-
most part, well, definitely we can improve on the, like how you feel. and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was one point in there where I was like, I was like, ooh, I feel like that's why I was like, I feel like I rushed the media, like
Solution.
not even so much the solution, because I was like, because I mean, I think I came into like the introduction kind of like, we're solving this problem, like,
Like, it was kind of like, what's your story? Okay, what's your story? And then
Yeah.
it's like, instead it should, maybe it should be like, okay, so that happened, and then how did you react, or how did he react?
Yeah.
Like little, I guess, getting little information out.
That's a good point too. Grabbing like every bit of information you can,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like breaking it down.
and then later on, that's when you move to the next one. Right. I also think there are times where I still struggle with the idea like when you're supposed to really stop someone, because like one of the first things you said, you know, like loud, like I don't know,
Redhead. Or no, rednecks. There we go. Right?
or
Yeah,
something like we said, and
yeah.
then like I was like, well,
Or
we let
totally.
we let one of them like slide by. We didn't say anything because it was just like such a
Well, he
quick comment.
said like don't like if it's like one thing like once don't really like nitpick it because like people say things in the heat of the moment like so kind of just like try to get them to like calm down for like
Right.
and then like if it repeats then all right, well we're gonna refrain from people calling people hillbillies or rednecks. Like,
Right.
that's why the second time I was like, and we're gonna stop that. Like,
Or like not saying those exact words, but saying like, okay, like it's okay to feel, you know, frustrated, but it would be really
Reframing.
helpful if, you know, we were all calm in the situation. I don't know. Instead of saying like, don't say hillbilly.
Don't say him.
no,
Stop
that's
saying
okay
it.
because he was like, we're not supposed to reinforce the poison, so that makes sense. Like, I can see that. Okay. I felt like I didn't really see too many like places where either one of yours was like too off. I'd just say like maybe dig deeper. So like okay, like I've spent like 40 years building my entire like pretty much my world, and now I have someone that's coming and like getting it dirty with all their like loud stuff and
No, but he's new. He was like a
Yeah.
new
right,
neighbor.
but so was
He
so
worked
was
40 years to
yeah,
get there.
and so was the racetrack. So the racetrack wasn't built prior to when he had moved in, which is like when I was asking that question, I was like, okay, well, if it was like pre-existing before you moved in knowing like that's where it was, like.
Yeah.
And then,
It says that he moved in like a year ago, and then 6 months ago he started building the track.
oh yeah, so it's only been
So
there
it
for
was
6
like
months.
a process.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then I didn't really feel like. I mean, I feel like you kind of just like naturally like you were like no, like I want the best for my kids. Like I didn't. I feel like that could have been played up a little bit, especially like when it came to like taking pictures of your 3-year-old daughter. Like I feel like a lot of people might have been like a little bit more legitimately pissed about that. Like
I think so too.
I just didn't know how to play off of it because it didn't say that in
It
there.
just
in mine,
sounds
so I was
bad
just
no
like,
matter what you take.
yeah, I was just like, oh, like I was, like, oh, like,
I did that.
yeah, like I don't.
oh, that's what you thought I was doing.
Mhm.
Okay. Number 5, please comment on the general disposition of each mediator. Nervous, relaxed, non-serious, uptight, legalistic, etc. So this is just for you
This is
guys.
for you guys.
I feel like it was good.
You
to
guys
be
are
honest.
very calm,
Yeah.
very realistic.
I think like the tone was set. Like it wasn't like too rowdy of a like a mediation where you guys really had to like barge in like and like do too much. But I feel like you guys did a good job of like handling the like little disputes that did kind of.
Yeah, you guys were very like neutral. Like you guys did not change. You weren't like biased or.
Oh sweet. I was wondering, I was thinking, was there a point where we sided with one person versus another person? Because like one of the things that made me change up what I was saying is when we were making you like move the dirt track and whatnot. That's why.
Yeah, that's when I was like, oh, this might seem biased. Like I feel like I'm like
the same
it's a
grass
bit
side,
more.
but-
Yeah, because I was like, well, everything seems like you're gonna be doing. You're
Yeah.
But then at the
So,
same time,
what-
you're just throwing out solutions.
Yeah. There's-
And that's why I was
But I
like,
feel like,
so what
I mean,
can you do to help this
even
process?
looking back now, I feel like you didn't really get too much out of this, but then again, like, everything that you guys agreed upon was kind of also within your power, so it wasn't like everything that could be done didn't really require money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like a financial dispute.
Yeah.
Like the other two were financial
Yeah.
for the most part. So like money kind of changed the circumstance, but here it was like, all right, well here's this problem, here's the noise. Oh, and then came like the track itself, and then we had to move away from the noise to solve the track problem before we could solve the noise problem. And then just moving the track alone was ended up being enough to come to a whole resolution. Like, and I felt like that solution ended up being pretty simple.
Yeah, because I mean, this lady, I mean, what she really wanted was just, I mean, you just wanted the threatening to stop and the stalking and maybe a civil harassment trading order.
You never pushed through with a restraining order, or we don't know that.
No, because there was a point where she was like, well, if that's, you know, and
Yeah.
she kept pushing it. She was like, and I can, you know, and I'll think about the restraining order.
But it's like
No,
when
we
he's
never
sitting
decided.
here just like, okay, like,
Yeah.
okay, like, am I supposed to be
Yeah, well,
like,
I mean-
you're gonna get a
You're gonna
restraining
get a
order?
restraining
But I mean, like the nature of the room was calm enough where it wasn't like he was amping up your reason to want the restraining order. So
Yeah, I feel like in the actual reading it was more provoked, but like here, like I kind of just like I didn't even play on, you know what I mean? Like I kind of was just
Well,
like I didn't really give her a reason to want to give me a restraining order. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't really.
And then when you guys were like, well, we were taking pictures, you know, of a freaking the property or whatever, like he didn't. You guys were saying that they wanted him to do it, that the city asked him to do it.
well, I asked. I was like, well, because you were like, I took the pictures, and then you told us that the city did. So I was like, okay, well, was it just two separate instances? Like the city came out, and then you started taking them because they didn't
Because
believe
he's
you.
sitting here saying like, okay, well, I wasn't taking pictures of your kid. I was taking pictures of the property. Like, okay, like I'm gonna keep arguing with that. Like, why would I keep arguing
Yeah.
with that and like getting mad?
Well, because you'd be like, no, like the city already came out, and then
But
you're
I
still.
did say that.
Yeah.
You're right. I probably could have played on that more.
You guys just want me to like, you know. I mean, I don't know.
No, I just
Like-
no. We don't want you to yell.
I just
You
had
guys just
like,
want me to like
I
keep
mean,
arguing. Like,
No, I feel like. No, I feel like that's just like the nature of conversation, though. Like
I don't know. For me, I thought it
with
was,
the
I'm very
stakes.
rational.
Yeah, no, like yeah, like. But I mean, like it's like you as a person are, but like get outside of your head and be like an irrational, like crazy,
scumbag.
like suburban mom, like.
Irrational redneck motorcyclist.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like sometimes it's really hard to just like take on that person. Like if you really never experienced like somebody taking pictures of your 3-year-old child, like, and it was like, oh, you were taking pictures to show evidence to the city. It's like, oh, okay, like it was kind of justified. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like.
What kind of threw me off was the idea that both of you want a restraining order, and I was like, well, if both of you want a restraining order, why can't you just not,
Yeah.
you know, like not be in contact with each other? Because
I felt like you pushed the restraining order more than they were.
Yeah, because I was like,
You
look,
never
I
You
was
know,
like,
let's talk about this restraining order.
yeah, well, in the sense, I was like, for me, it was very basic. I was like, look, if you want it and you want it, just get it and be out of each other's way. That's what I was thinking.
But see, I was like every time you brought up the restraining order, I was like, I tried to like bring it away because I was like, no, listen. I was like, okay, well, we're not here to like enforce the restraining orders because those aren't gonna like help them resolve the problem really, like, and then there's not really gonna be the communication. But if we deviate away from this restraining order, they're not really gonna be thinking about it like as actively, like,
Well, what I
and
was
then they're gonna
thinking,
talk more.
I thought of it in a different perspective. I was like, look, if you're really thinking about this, and then you have a bunch of different issues, and one of the things that you said earlier was, even if we do this with the dirt track, I still would like, him not to yell at my kids, stuff like that, and I would still want the restraining order. So I said, all right, well, if we just agree on the restraining order,
Then the mediation would have been done in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it could go like both ways.
But also the reason they were here was because like
The noise.
no, but like for us it said the
Court?
yeah, the court said no to the restraining order and referred you guys to mediation.
So they say no to me?
No, they didn't say no to it. They just
They said no to
referred.
mine.
They
That's
said
what it
it's
says in
yours.
mine.
Yeah, they said it's yours.
This is mine.
And then they
Yeah.
referred you to us.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what that would entail.
I guess they just didn't want it to do anything legally.
Yeah.
Because it was really a problem that needed a restraining order. Well, except the picture could be.
Yeah, but you guys weren't even like trying to like
Yeah, I feel like no.
ask me. Like you guys like blew it off. And
Yeah, I feel like everybody kind of downplayed the things to take. To be honest,
say
like,
anything.
In my defense, I was really extremely biased on this in my head. Well, in two ways. One, that's fucking disturbing. And two would be the idea like if you want your kids to go into like motocross, right, and be like and do what they love and then maybe be famous about this, they're gonna have their pictures taken. So that was another bias. I was like, he might be your first
it's
time.
totally different from a 60-something-year-old taking pictures of a 3-year-old.
Did I mention it that she was 3 years
Yeah,
old?
yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
well,
yes.
sure, I
No,
repeated
but that's,
myself.
but I mean, like, it's a 3. Okay, well, like, I mean, like, my perspective was on. I was honestly already thinking like, there's a like, he probably wasn't trying to take like, because like, why would you take a picture of a 3-year-old girl on the sidewalk at the
Yeah, you
the
guys
line?
didn't ask
Was it on the
Yeah.
sidewalk?
No, or not.
And I was gonna say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like at the property line, but like, why would you like in the? Why are you going to blatantly make it so obvious that you're taking pictures? Like, I didn't think that would like happen if he was trying to take pictures of a 3-year-old little girl, because like, you're gonna be more creepy about it if you are like,
If you don't say anything about
Yeah.
it, I didn't do that.
like, but
He was very straightforward.
He was like, I was taking pictures of the track, and so I was like, okay, well, that's where that like miscommunication happened. Like, he was probably like had her in the frame.
And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said the city already took pictures. Why do they need? Why does he
Yeah.
need to? And then you guys were like,
And then
Yeah, he was like, oh, well, he just wanted to get his own.
they wanted his contribution.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
He should've-
that's no, I asked.
I couldn't think of anything. The only thing I thought of was, you know what? Where's your proof?
And then he was like, well, you toned it down when the city came, and then after they left, like, you turned it up, and then I was like, okay, well.
What I meant by where's your proof, as in like if you know the city got it, and I was like, well, where's your proof that the city did it just for whatever,
That's
And,
What if it was Google? Like,
what if it was? Yeah.
no.
It was really clear that you guys weren't talking about the same people. Because one, you were clueless. You're like, that wasn't me. They didn't tell me that. And then you were like, well, they were on my purpose taking pictures. And so. I
Well,
was-
yeah, the city. It says here.
And then I was
City's
like,
Code Enforcement Division.
I was thinking, at that point, can we say, you know what? We can call the city right now and find out. Could we do that?
I mean, yeah, but that's kind of like
When you
instigating, kind of like.
Who's right? Who's
Yeah,
wrong?
like.
Yeah, never mind. That's you.
But you guys are supposed to be like, okay, just let it go. Like.
That's right,
okay.
That's why like okay
Yes.
like I really didn't like I wasn't pushing for like one ultimate solution. I was like it was kind of like I was throwing out possibilities that might work for both of you guys, and like if you agreed upon it, cool. If not, like tweak the solution or tweak like the way we're going about like fixing that one problem, like because really it broke down to the picture, which kind of ended up working itself out naturally. Just okay, everyone, you guys will think so. Probably not entirely, but like I feel like when he was that natural conversation had bounced back and kind of like resolved for me at least it resolved like the photo taking issue, and then it was like, all right, well now how are we gonna move the track? And then track ended up covering the noise problem and the dirt problem, and then I was like, okay, well. Noise, if it's still a problem, and then that's when I was like, all right, well, future solution, should you guys need it? I didn't feel like I was being too pushy about it, like, because I felt like there were times where I was like, okay, and how do you feel? Like, I didn't do like the, how does that make you feel? Like, I didn't use that technique, but like,
We still.
I kind of still, I feel like I still asked a couple like open-ended questions. I got some of the like necessary information out.
Which question would be?
Yeah. In your observation, did each mediator seem to understand the nuisances of the parties' respective feelings, needs, emotions, and points of view? Please provide examples of help.
I think one of the things I can point out that I thought I understood really well was how you wanted an apology for your kids, and then you're like, well, why should I apologize? And I was like, well, if you think about it, like the kids wouldn't tell you how they feel, and they would obviously tell you.
Oh yeah, I remember you guys mentioning the kids. That was a good point. That was when you guys actually like, started talking about when you gave some, sympathy about the kids.
I tried to do that in the beginning. Like, I was like, I understand you want like the best for kids. You chase their like passions, and then I was like, I'm sure you understand that. Like, I tried to make it relatable, so it was like, okay, I work hard, like they work hard, you worked hard, like, and that ended up kind of like backfiring. He was
Like,
like,
you're saying I work as
but
hard
I
as I
didn't disturb anybody, and I was like, ooh,
Yeah,
you're
when
right.
you said that, I was like, oh, come on, man, don't say that. It was good though when you said that. All that went through my mind was,
Yeah, I was just like, you're right. Like,
That's right.
That's all I could think. I mean, I don't know. You probably did though, because you have a lot of cars, so I don't know.
yeah, apparently you have a lot of cars, one in the front, one in the back, one making our life harder.
We seem to understand your nuisances. I feel like, honestly, it was harder for me to relate. I don't know if it's because I wasn't looking at like a 63-year-old man.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just like, right now you're just like someone in your 20s that has like a lot of money, and that I felt like that was kind of like one of the ways like I didn't really play on like yours and your wife's like desires for like sleep and rest and like your old people.
Now that I think about it, a lot of the mediation was focused on you, and then the only thing that I really can think of that we mentioned about you was like, oh, you wanted just to sleep at this time.
But I mean, that's
You
how
didn't
it kind
want
of
to-
played out in mine. Like it seemed like the.
See,
like,
but part of that was I didn't know who had convened the meeting or the
It was
meeting.
party.
Yeah, it was so it was Miss Apple, so I felt like yeah, so I don't know if
I
it's
think
like
it's in
inherent.
the court.
No,
The court.
she's party one though.
Yeah, party one was suggested by the court to go to mediation,
Yeah.
and that's all that we know. So we pretty much we were brought here because the court asked her to go.
Yeah, so I felt like, I don't know if it's like an inherent bias I have being like party one's the one with like, they brought the problem to me, so like, let's.
Maybe that could have been something we could have like improved on. In the beginning, we could have been like, well, do you both know why you're here?
Well, yeah, they
And then
obviously,
you can tell.
obviously do, because I mean like, yeah, and then we were even like, okay, so what's going on your side, what's going on your side, but I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like it was, like, that's, I don't know if that's like, I don't know if you experienced that, like, I feel like in all the mediations, though, I kind of like lean towards spending the most amount of time on like party one, just because like they're the one that brought the case, like.
Yeah, like what did you feel this needed to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I get it. Alright, let's see, what question 9? What specific tools, character traits, or qualities did each mediator convey that worked well and why? What was ours? Reflecting.
I did some validation, some reflecting. I didn't use that. I think I used iMessages. I understand.
I didn't use any iMessages actually. I used questions.
My iMessages are pretty like long
Yeah, the way
statements.
like because this.
You probably used one.
I think I was like, I think that was more than the beginning when I was like, I understand. And that was like when we were talking about the kids.
Maybe I did use one near the end
I think you did.
with the kids too.
Yeah.
I feel like iMessages are a little easier to use, like without like trying to use them. You know what
It's
I
just
mean?
naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
more of a-
There was some sympathy that I think we displayed, both of us.
Yeah.
Again, more so towards you than Mr. White.
But I do like remember you guys pushing, the time a lot. You
Yeah.
guys wanted a
Because that was really the only
time
thing
to
he
stop.
really wanted.
Yeah.
Like the 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock cutoff, so he could go to sleep. I like your point though, because even as a mediator, I was fully agreeing with her idea. Like the whole world doesn't sleep at 7, man.
Yeah.
You know. Like,
And plus, like, no other neighbors are complaining except for him.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of just an asshole.
Yeah, he really is that grumpy old man. Like,
Like, I just feel like he's a hater that's just,
He
like,
just makes
they're
it
having
good.
fun.
yeah, those
they're
kids
young.
are over there having fun.
they're they're gonna be successful in 10 years.
Yeah.
What you did in 40.
Yeah,
Bitter.
they're going pro.
They have a mother who loves them.
They're gonna get
I'm stuck here
sponsors.
with my wife.
Yeah.
Where's my kids?
Yeah.
What tools, characteristics, qualities did we convey that need attention and or changing? Why?
That's good.
No.
Yeah, that's it. Again, I kind of just want to I want to back up and kind of take more time listening to the parties, and then before I start trying to find possible solutions.
Yeah, I would say, like, just asking more open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Cause I totally, like, I can't remember, like,
No, I did.
Word for
Do you
word, like
think
what?
do you think yes or no? That was pretty much like a yes or no.
that's.
Is it okay? Yes or no? Pretty much is the format instead of how does that make you feel? Which is completely open ended.
Yeah.
Or saying, like, how, I know it's like how, or, I don't know.
How? What?
What makes you feel like this would be a good solution?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anything of the sort.
You guys do you have anything to add? No. All right. We're done with that one.
Yeah, that one was pretty fast. Alright, 11.
Please,
It's just additional if we need it.
Not
I
casual.
feel like these questions are
I do. It's we end up talking
Yeah, it's
about.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't really have any additional stuff to say.
Party 1 or party 2 for the next one.
Oh, yeah? Oh, wait, no, sorry. I'll take whichever you don't want.
Are you gonna turn off the camera?
I totally forgot.